It's Saturday, June 18th, here in the Zone 6A Ohio Permaculture Garden. And we finally have some cool weather, just perfect for being out here in the garden in the morning. So I've talked and written a little bit about how this garden is mostly a non-irrigated garden. We had a heat wave recently, and I did water some of the plants that I just put in because I don't want to lose them. And I've also been watering with human urine because it's a better way than just pouring it on. It's good to dilute it. So I have been doing some watering, but for the most part, I don't water. We get a lot of rain here in the eastern U.S., and a lot of what I've been doing here is working to a point where I don't have to water because it's extremely time consuming, and it's also expensive if you're using, just water from the tap that you have to pay for. So it's a great goal to work for. And also, with the exception of the urine, I don't really fertilize, after the plants are in. Sometimes I top off or side dress with some compost, but I don't use commercial fertilizers ever. There's absolutely no need to here. So if I'm not fertilizing and I'm not watering, what am I doing? Well, mostly what I'm doing is weeding. And some people might not like to hear that because it's often seen as an unpleasant task. And you're supposed to be able to get to the point where you don't have to weed, because we have these ideas, the weed-free garden. You're going to reach a point where you can conquer weeds. But unfortunately, that is complete balderdash, because if you're going to maintain a garden, this is not a food forest, this is more of a traditional potager. I grow a lot of annuals in here. I have perennial vegetables, perennial ornamentals, I have fruit trees. It's a mix. But a lot of what we eat in the summer comes from annual crops, so I'm keeping this area in a state of suspended succession, because what the garden is trying to do here is to become a forest, and it would do that pretty quickly if I just let it go. So I'm just trying to get back over here so I can show you what I'm talking about. That little orange thing right there in the middle of the screen, that's actually an oak tree popping up. So oak trees, locust trees, cherry trees, they're popping up in here all the time. Sometimes I just pull them, sometimes I transplant them. But I don't really want this to turn into forest, because this is a highly controlled area. We have areas, at the end of the property that we want to turn into forest. That's something totally different from what we're doing here. So because this is a highly controlled, extremely rich area, and it's rich from adding animal manure, compost, mulches like hay, wood chips, for over 20 years, we've got this super rich spot of great ground sitting on top of clay. Not that clay is bad. I've written a lot and talked a lot about how clay is wonderful, but I don't want to grow directly in the pure clay, obviously. So now that I've created this little spot here, what happens is any seed that falls here finds a very welcoming spot. So because we have some horse pasture and some woods and wild areas around here, we have an enormous amount of seed rain. And what happens is the seeds fall here and they grow and they love it. So I remove those plants because I don't want them here. I might want them other places, but I don't want them here because, again, this is a highly controlled and managed area, mainly for human use. The other thing I'd like to mention is when I say weeding, I mean removing anything that needs to be removed, which often is are plants that I've planted here. There's volunteers of strawberries that I don't want. I mean, strawberries just come up everywhere. There's a maple tree that really needs to come out. And very